haunted machine. It must be a bristleback. Maybe errand to... It must be chain scrape. Jaruf said I could get my bow upgraded in there. Might be able to tinker with my other gear, too.
Outlander approaching. Is that the Savior? Wanna come in, Savior?
Welcome to Chainscrape, Savior.
Open up, guys. Jorv's orders.
Good enough for me.
By the Forge.
Petra?
Aloy, what are you doing here? About time there was something worth looking at in this dump.
It's nice to see you, too.
And not a moment too soon. Come on. Damn brewery's the only thing I can count on in this place.
Yeah, I heard. Machines, work stoppage.
Oh, those are just the latest malfunctions. Chainscrape's always been a few tools short of a kit. And right there is the biggest tool of all.
Our land, not our problem. The bristlebacks are everybody's problem.
Roland?
You've heard of him,
Yeah.
but he's a story best told over a cold beer.
Petra. I'm just passing through. I'm headed west.
Oh,
There's an embassy at Barren Light I need to make happen, and then I keep moving.
ah, of course. Bigger gears to grind. Well, Flamehair, good to see you. You've got to move on.
Petra.
But if you want a cold beer and a few laughs with an old friend, come find me at the brewery. Your choice.
Well, this old one guy sounds like trouble. Maybe Petra could use some support. But first things first, I need to find that workbench and upgrade my bow.
Alvin blows that pussy, no one's working in it. There's an Ostrom hammer. Metal in an empty forge.
One drink for me. One drink for other me.
Missy!
Ah, there you are.
Gotta stay positive. This will all blow over. Shit, I'm not calling.
I hope Corvin and the others are doing better than I am.
Yeah, you. Took you long enough.
Take that back. This will be the death of me.
What happened to you?
That damn mine is what happened to me. It won't be the last injury if Olvin keeps shoving those tongs into those tunnels.
What mine?
Northeast of Chainscrape, where the river ends. I told Corvin we should stop when the first cave-in happened, but Olvin probably threatened to cut off our pay. Or worse.
How about you slow down and take me through it? You mentioned you were injured in a cave-in.
Yeah, a couple days ago. That's how I hurt this blasted leg. Corvin and the others were opening a new vein while I was checking on an older one. As soon as their blast hit, the tunnel I was in collapsed. Might have dodged it if I wasn't running on barely a spark of sleep. We were pushing too hard and too fast.
And you're afraid Corvind and the others might not be as lucky if it happens again.
Mm-hmm. Hit the nail right on the head.
How come Olvin's in charge? Don't these mines belong to the Karja?
Try telling Olvin that. He brought in all the backing to get them open. Might as well own them. Fire and spit. You ask him. He owns us as well.
Who's Corvind?
He's their foreman. And a damn good one. The kind that knows how to deal with management when it gets unreasonable. But Olvind... his demands go beyond unreasonable. Corvin's been doing his best to appease him. He even blamed himself for my injury when it was Olvin who ordered the extra shifts.
Sounds like a good guy.
That's why we all put up with the long hours and lousy conditions. But if the whole mine becomes unstable, I'd rather suffer Olvin's wrath than die buried in rubble.
I could check in on your crew if I'm in the area.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Ignoring me again. There you are. Oh, hi. Look at you. Go there. To the claim. And 3 planks for our chef Wilma.
Hey, Mildef. Mildef. I took some of your stew last time I went into the wilds. Kept me going for a week. Felt like I could have put a strider in a sleeper hold.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Sounds like you're serving up some impressive provisions here.
Not again. You can have the discount too, but you'll have to come back later.
I think you have me confused with someone else.
Olvin didn't send you?
No.
Oh, my apologies. It's just that his minions won't stop pestering me. Now I've even worn out my special grill. Since I'm in the midst of a crisis, perhaps you could skip to what it is you wanted?
Some of your food?
Of course.
Are Ulvin's people causing you problems?
Oh, yeah. They constantly demand my best, but the equipment I need to make my signature dishes isn't built for batch cooking. And don't get me started on the Ulvin discount they feel so entitled to.
And if you refuse?
I make meals. No trouble.
How did you end up in Chainscrape?
Heard about a new and upcoming town at the edge of the frontier. Where there's a town, there's a tavern. I was in need of work. So I got myself out here and started cooking. Some of these people had never tasted proper boars and berries stew before. Anyway, next thing I knew, people kept coming back. Guess they liked my food. Or the ale.
Your last customer mentioned your cooking really kept him going out in the wild. Where I'm headed, I could use some of that.
I would be happy to oblige, especially since you have the decency to ask pleasantly.
But
my special groove griddle is no more. Without it, I can't cook any of my signature dishes. I hate to think what'll happen when I'm forced to refuse Olvin or his goons. Even if I already had the right ingredients, there's nothing I can do. Unless you can source me a temporary replacement?
what do you need?
For the ingredients, a few pieces of decent wild meat, and I'd say a big handful of bitter leaf stems. That'll do. As for the griddle, a corrugated metal panel might suffice until I can have a new one forged. You'd likely find one in a scrounger pile if you follow the river to the northeast. Don't worry, I'll clean it first. You'll have no issue finding boars and bitter leaf on your way. Assuming you're as much a hunter-gatherer as your clothing suggests.
Thanks, Mildef. I'll keep an eye out.
So that's what gratitude sounds like.
And don't let anyone push you around, okay?
If you say so.
To the claim. Fire and stick.
Do I look like I know what a Nora...
Someone said I had the best
We are on the same side here. The bristlebacks.
What do you want, Ulvund? Some kind of payment?
My dear magistrate, you think I can be bought? If you want that whistle blown, all you have to do is have your soldiers remove the bristlebacks and sign the concession decree. Face it, what other choice do you have?
Hi.
Savior, what auspicious timing. Might we discuss a matter of importance to the Sundom?
We might. Later.
Very well. I shall be waiting.
So, the savior herself. Walloper of Derval, gutter of youth.
Maybe.
I've heard many tales of your beauty and heroics, my fierce lady warrior. Ulvund Freeholder, at your service. So, what could have dragged you away from the fine silks and wine of Meridian to this smudge of a settlement? Your saviorly attention must be needed elsewhere.
I'm here for the embassy and...
The embassy? Why, by the forge. Ah. Greater gears for greater matters. Guess that means you'll be moving on.
Once I've dealt with any problems around here that need my... saviorly attention.
Ah, the bristlebacks, of course. Got to get rid of them if you want that embassy to take place. Well, best get to it, hey? And off you go.
Not so fast. You don't seem to have a high opinion of the magistrate?
Well, I refuse to play nice to some fancy-robed parchment pusher when my fellow laborers are being bullied, intimidated, and taken advantage of.
How noble of you.
Noble, ha! Born with a hammer in hand, I was. Nobody handed me anything or dropped opportunity into my lap. Everything I've achieved, I've done on my own.
And where is this hammer now?
The, burden of leadership forced me to set it aside. The Carja risk nothing, while demanding that good Osram gamble with their lives out there. Someone had to step up and say no more.
You ordered the work stoppage?
Indeed I did. We're laborers, not soldiers. Until the Karja clean up their mess and give us the fair deal we deserve, I'm not risking Osram lives.
Fair deal? You mean your concession decree?
It's not my decree. It's on behalf of all the good Osram laborers of this land who do all the back-breaking work, while only the Karja reap the rewards. All we're asking for is the ability to share in this prosperity for a land worked by the people, for the people.
Right. And just how much would be your share?
Only an amount appropriate to my contributions to this community, of course.
If Chainscrape is on Karja land, shouldn't a Karja be in charge? Who appointed you?
The sensibilities of good Osram folk, of course. You think a Karja can head this whole venture? Ah! The magistrate can barely make the trek from Barren Light without losing a few screws.
So you have no real authority then? People only follow you because you say so. Loudly.
Anyone who has followers has authority. I've been with Chainscrape from the beginning. I mean, I'm practically its founder, and its honest folk know I'm indispensable to its success.
You said you founded Chainscrape. Somehow I doubt that.
Practically founded, I said. I alone saw its potential when it was just a smattering of tents in Barren Light's shadow. I invested in the mine, convinced some friends back home to do the same, and here we are. You could say Chainscrape is what it is thanks to me.
Oh, so you're not just standing around and profiting off everyone else?
Not at all. Sure, I make a little return on my investment here and there, but my main priority, as it was from the beginning, is to look after the well-being of these honest, working Osram.
Where's the whistle?
Right in the middle of town, but with the threat out there, I'm not endangering innocent Osram lives.
I'm going to clear out the bristlebacks. And when I'm done, this valley is going to get moving.
If that's what it takes. Until then, I'll keep looking after the safety of these good folk.
Just be ready to blow the whistle. Better see what that Karja magistrate wanted. I bet he's in the tavern.
Workbench is free if you need to tinker.
Ignoring me again?
Gotta keep going, sorry.
This should be useful. Now I just need to find Erend and help him clear the bristlebacks.
Savior!
Careful there.
Order. Nothing interesting.
So fierce that I think this layman slag he put in town ain't got it
Savior, thank you for taking the time, and my condolences that you had to endure Ulvan's bloviating.
I've dealt with worse. It sounds like he's really trying to put you over the barrel.
The idea that the Karja purposely let bristlebacks into the Daunt, it's completely absurd. But the louder and longer he says it, the more support he'll get for his damned concession decree.
How did the bristlebacks get into the Daunt?
No one knows for sure. The first report of them came from west of the quarry. But unless they have wings I don't know about, I don't see how they could have come over the mountains.
No other way in.
The only way I know about is barren light. Look, if you can get to the bottom of this, I can offer a considerable bounty in return. Help me shut Ulvund up.
What is this concession decree that Ulvund wants?
He wants the Sundom to designate portions of the Daunt as Oseram holdings. Only the portions, mind you, that produce any value.
Let me guess. Because he stands to profit somehow?
Exactly. With the Daunt under Oseram law, he could secure more investment for their numerous ventures.
He can't get those investments without the concession?
No. Not while there's a chance the Sundom could revoke their access. Hence, why the concession is so important to him. And why blaming the Karja for the bristlebacks, no matter how absurd, works in his favor.
You said the bristlebacks were first spotted west of the quarry?
Yes, according to one terrified laborer, said the ground trembled before they came charging down the hillside. He took off and ran all the way here.
Good place to start looking, then.
If you learn the truth, maybe Ulvund will stop blaming the Karja for every problem under the sun, and maybe then he'll actually focus on rebuilding Barren Light instead.
To the claim for the brewmaster.
Come to revel in some strike, sister? Let me set the board.
I was just passing by.
First timer, huh? Don't worry about it. I'll go easy on you. You got any pieces?
No.
Well, aren't you in luck then? I got an extra set, a Tanakh original, straight out of the Forbidden West. Sit. I'll run you through it in a hot spark. I'll give you something special if you win it on my boards, too. All right, let's start off simple. The Tanakh like to say that Machine Strike is a game of pure strategy. We each get a set of pieces. Each piece represents a kind of machine, and each machine is worth a different number of victory points. To win the game, you'll need to gain 7 victory points by destroying the opponent's machines. It can be tricky remembering the details of every machine, so we use these notes to keep track of them. You see that number on the top right corner? That notes also tell you how far a piece can move, how powerful their attacks are, the distance they can strike from, and of course, their health. Okay, that's enough for now. Let's just play. I'll explain the rest as we go. I own the board, so I get to choose who goes first. Since this is your first time, I'll let you go. Usually you get to choose which pieces to set on the board, but this will do for now. Pick up that machine piece to your right, and move it forward. And remember, each machine can only move a certain distance. Take a look at your notes if you need a Easy enough, huh? Now, you get to move 2 machines each round. So go ahead and... Perfect. There's not much else to do for now, so just end your turn. We're forging onwards. Let me move my pieces here. And we're back to you. This time, why don't you try attacking one of my pieces? Try with that machine on your right first. Now move the piece closer. When performing an attack, you'll be testing your machine's combat power against the opponent's. A machine's combat power is a combination of the terrain your machine is standing on and its own attack power. This board only has grassland terrain, which has no effect on a machine's combat power. And your current machine has 2 points of attack power. So in total, your machine's combat power equals 2 points. Since my machine isn't the one attacking, it has 0 points of attack power. And just like your machine, it's not affected by grassland terrain. So right now, the difference in combat power between the two machines is 2 points. This means your machine can do 2 points of damage to my machine. Did you get all that? Knew you were a smart one. Finish up by attacking my machine. Not pulling any punches, huh? Now grab that second machine of yours. See how your machine can't move close enough to attack mine? You can make your machine sprint. That lets it move 1 space further. Try it out. Downside to sprinting is that your machine can no longer attack. Now, some players like to take a risk and overcharge their machine in cases like this. Overcharging lets you attack after a sprint, but it will damage your machine's health by 2 points. So use at your own discretion. Let's try doing that now so you can see what I mean. That's about it for your turn then. Now, I'll let you in on a neat trick. That machine of yours, the one closest to me, grab a hold of it. Same as in the wilds, machines have both armored points and weak points. You can see them marked on the pieces. Blue shows where their armor is thickest. Hit them there and you'll do some damage, but not a lot. Now, red shows the machine's weak points. Hit those and you'll deal a mighty blow. Here, let me show you. Rotate that piece so your machine faces mine. Now let that machine have it. Off the board she goes, and there's your first victory points. You don't have 7 of them yet, so let's keep going. Your machine attacked mine, but hasn't moved yet. Go ahead and move downwards towards my remaining piece. You've already attacked a machine and moved your piece. But if you and by the look of it, you'd be sacrificing, but some overcharge your machine. Ain't that a thrill? Now, because your machine was knocked out at the same time as mine, we both get the victory points our machines are worth. Good news is, since you're the one attacking, you're gonna receive your victory points before I do. Which means you can reach the coveted 7 victory points first. That's why sometimes losing a piece can't now. But just remember, you'd be surprised. I know it's a it's a spot. You might though they'll need or no, I've lost her. Brew up. Oh, no. Now, I could even thanks. I knew I'd make a strike player out of you yet. How about this time I tell you how to use a board's terrain to your advantage? This one's got all the different terrains you can encounter in a game of Strike. Knowing when and how to use them can mean the difference between victory and defeat. Terrain mainly affects your machine's combat power. As you know, when fighting an opponent's machine, you compare its combat power to yours. The higher your machine's combat power, the more damage you can do. So finding the right terrain is an essential strategy for overpowering your opponent. Here, I'll show you. Grab that piece to your left. Now, combat power is the sum of a machine's attack power and the value of the terrain it's standing on. Since your machine is attacking, it's using its 2 points of attack power. It's also standing on forest terrain with a value of 1 point. Add those together, and your machine has 3 points of combat power. My machine is standing on grassland terrain with a value of 0 points. It's also not attacking, which means their attack points aren't in play. So my combat power is 0. This means your machine, go ahead and test it out. There you go. Now, choosing the right terrain doesn't just improve your offense. It can also help defend your machines from attack. Grab your other piece and place it in front of my second machine. Since your machine is attacking, it's using its 2 points of attack power. It's standing on grassland terrain. This terrain has a value of 0. This means your machine's combat power adds up to 2 points. My machine can't use their attack power since they're defending their position. But they have the higher ground. They're standing on forest terrain, which is worth 1 point. This means my combat power adds up to 1 point. Now, the front of my machine is colored blue. This means that the spot you're about to attack has, which means my machine gets an X. If we compare the combat, you'll see that you won't be able to, whenever you're unable to top an opponent's combat power, you can still choose to attack and break their machine. Go ahead, try it out. Ha, see? When you break a machine's defenses, you can knock it backwards. Sure, both our machines will receive 1 point of damage, but knocking my machine off that terrain makes it more vulnerable to attacks. Not only that, if my machine had been blocked from moving backwards, it would have received an extra point of damage. And if my machine had been blocked by another one of my pieces, that machine would have received damage as well. That's why breaking a machine's defenses is a great way to deal damage. Just useful, right? There's still one more thing I want to show. All right, as we've seen, the higher the terrain, the more it'll add to your machine's combat power. However, there are 2 other terrains that work a little differently. This is what we call a chasm. Only flying machines can be placed on those. But it'll take away 2 combat points if you do, so be wary. This is marsh terrain. Landing on it will take away 1 combat power point from most machines. It'll also keep your machine from moving for the rest of the turn. Here, let me show you. Grab that machine on your left. See? All you can do now is wait for your next turn to move again. Or you can overcharge your machine to get out of there. You can still attack any nearby enemies so you're not completely helpless. Well, I think that's enough yammering from me for now. Promise it'll all come in handy. Here for more tips? Why don't I tell you a bit more about the pieces we used to play? In a normal game, you get to choose which machines you place on the board. Each one is worth a certain number of setup points, and you can spend up to 10 assembling your army. Knowing what each machine brings to the game and building an army that matches your strategy is the key to becoming a machine strike master. When assembling your army, there are a few things to keep in mind. First and foremost, you can never have more than 4 of the same machine on the board at the same time. With that in mind, most players would choose machines based on how far they can move or how much attack power they have. But a real strike player will be looking at a machine's type and skills. Let's take a quick look, shall we? Pick up that machine on your left. All right, let's talk about the different ways in which a machine attacks its opponents. In other words, its machine type. If you look at your notes, you'll see this machine here is a melee type. You can also tell by the shape of the base the piece stands on. A melee type machine attacks the first enemy within range, and no one else. We've seen this plenty of times, so just move that piece forward so I can show you some more stuff. Get that machine to the front lines. I have more to show you. Great, now grab your other machine. Looks like we've got our... This means they'll only hit the farthest enemy in their attack range. Let's move that machine forward and end your turn so we can take a look at the rest of the pieces. Why don't you move that forward for me, Red? Not there. Let's go with this piece first. This is a ram-type machine. Attack an enemy with it, and it'll push the piece backwards. Like this. See, now my machine has taken over your machine's spot on the board. This is a great way to take the advantage away from your opponent if they have the higher ground. Looks like we have one more piece to look at. Now this is a beauty of a piece, a dash-type machine. When it attacks, it'll move to the end of its attack range and damage every machine in its path, including your own. So make sure you take a good look at the board before you send it off to the races. You should also make sure it's able to finish its attack on an empty spot. Otherwise, you won't be able to attack at all. Here, I'll show you. Look, it even rotated your piece. A nifty little piece you'll definitely want in your set. If you look at your notes, you'll notice this particular machine has one of the skills I mentioned before. There's quite a few of those, and we haven't even, but I'm pretty sure it's got, I think that... This is gonna be fun. Your move, Red. Time to get serious. Your turn. Okay, let's see. Looks like you're down to one piece. I'm up. Board's all yours. Off the board it goes. You got me. Fair and square. Good luck. You're up, Red. My turn. That's it for me. Time to make my move. was brutal. Well, that's done now. Knocked right off the board. One less piece on the board. My turn. Not looking good for you, Red. That was brutal. Hey! Oh, that was the perfect spot! Oh, I thought I had that one. Let's do this! I'm up. That's it for me. Knocked right off the board. Well, that's done now. Your turn. That was a surprise. One less piece on the board. Ah, off the board it goes. Your move, Red. Off the board it goes. One less piece on the board. You're up, Red. You got me down to one piece. I am impressed. tough fight ahead of me. Now, looks like I lost. Here we go. Board's all yours. Time to make my move. Board's all yours. Seriously? Okay, let's see. Your move, Red. Time to get serious. Nice! Well, that's done now. That was brutal. Knocked right off the board. That's it for me. Well, that's done now. Time to get serious. That's the game. You up for a rematch? Let's play. My turn. Your turn. Thank the forge you hit armor. One less piece on the board. You're up, Red. That was brutal. Okay, let's see. Knocked right off the board. Oh, we can stop if you want. This is gonna be fun. Come up. That's it for me. Hey, I like that piece where it was. Off the board it goes. Off the board it goes. I was hoping you wouldn't do that. One less piece on the board. knocked right off the board. Well, that's done now. That was brutal. Ah, off the board it goes. Time to make my move. You're up, Red. Well, spark my forge. You have beaten me on every one of my boards. Now that deserves a prize, I say. Come back anytime, Red.
Knew you couldn't resist some good company. Come for that beer after all, eh? Here, sit down. Get a pint in her hand. Wasn't expecting you to swing by.
Since when do I do what's expected?
Ha! There's that spark. Fire and spit.
Fire and spit.
That's a blast from the bellows. Won't fix the forge, but at least I can forget about my troubles for a while.
Like what?
Take your pick. We got bodies to bury from the bristlebacks, the work stoppage, Olvin grating the gears about his concession decree. Hey! Weapons off the table! Ah, don't listen to me. Nothing a cold brew and knocking some heads together can't fix eventually.
I thought you'd be back in Freeheap.
Well, after the big battle at Meridian, I went back, but realized it was running smooth. Didn't need me. Heard about the rebuilding out at Barren Light. Figured they could use another hammer. Been scraping by ever since.
You could always leave.
And go back east? Nah. I ain't one to leave a lit forge. Besides, someone's gotta be a squeaky wheel for the workers around here.
So about Olvend.
Around here, everything's about Olvend.
How'd he end up in charge?
He got here early, like a squirrel smelling a fat nut. He knew rebuilding Barren Light would need stone and timber. So he jangled purses all over Mainspring, getting investors to front claims on anything in the Daunt that might be worth a damn. Thing is, all the bankers back home know that this is Karja land, and the Sun King can revoke those claims at any time. That's why he's desperate for the magistrate to sign off on a concession decree.
This concession decree, what is it exactly? And how would it help Olvend?
It's pig diddle, that's what.
A writ that would put all Osram claims in the Daunt under Osram law, even though they're on Karja land. It would mean that any existing ore, stone, and timber claims couldn't be revoked by the Karja. No more risk, no more hesitation for investors back in the claim to pour in the shards and expand their business. And since Olvend has a stake in all those claims, it would make him richer than a scrapper in a junk heap. Not to mention Chainscrape would become an Osram municipality, so he could buy enough votes to call himself an elderman. He's a sly old badger, I'll give him that. Figures if he keeps up the pressure, eventually the magistrate will sign.
So the bristlebacks in the Daunt. Where did they come from?
That's the thing. No one rightly knows. They just showed up one day, rampaging around the valley like they exploded out of a forge. Lost some good people. But I heard talk of some vanguards trying to take them down.
Did they come through here?
Stopped by briefly for supplies. Ulvund was none too pleased. Won't be able to crank it to his advantage once the bristlebacks are gone.
But how could bristlebacks and the Daunt help Ulvund?
2 words. Concession decree. Since no one knows where the bristlebacks came from, Ulvund has taken to blaming the Karja for him. He's hoping to dig up enough old resentments to get a strike going until the concession's signed. This is just his latest attempt. He's been trying to rile up the workers since the day he rolled into town.
And people actually believe him?
Lots of folks suffered at the hands of the Mad King during the Red Raids. Give him half a reason, they'll blame the Karja for anything.
Damn Karja slavers.
Well, I have to be going. Thanks for the drink, Petra. I'm glad I stopped by.
Anytime, Flamehair.
No one wants to play strike. No? Anyway.
Ask her. I don't know what she's doing here. I just know I need proper service. Throw me in with pigs. I dare you. I'm okay. Okay. Oh. Can I help you? What do you want?
Almost ready to go?
Greetings! Over here!
Find my stash later.